Good morning. Welcome to this morning service. We begin the month of August already. The days are, well, the nights seem to be getting longer. In the morning now, when we wake up, it's not quite as bright as it was earlier. Of course, this is normal, but as we experience these things, we can be reminded of how our lives are constantly changing, how the things that we experience on a regular basis, that maybe sometimes we don't recognize or don't acknowledge maybe. But when we do, when we open ourselves up to the changes that are taking place around us, there are perhaps things that we can appreciate, that we can recognize as being parts of, important parts of our lives. We'll begin this morning's service with the reading of Sambujo, followed by the reading of Juseike. So if you'll please join us in this morning's service. Namanda, 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 namanda.
점은 더 그 이상하여 여부쯤은 계집 서다쯤 미쁘셔 남나큰 애니 도시 사이셔선 싱한 약곡함 나이센 옥한도 고크쇼텐님
Will you please join now in the reading of the three treasures? Hard is it to be born into human life. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the teachings of the Blessed One. Now we hear it. If we do not deliver ourselves in the present life, no hope is there that we shall be freed from suffering and sorrow in the ocean of birth and death. Let us reverently take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in Buddha. May we all together absorb into ourselves the principle of your way to enlightenment and awaken in ourselves our supreme will. I take refuge in Dharma. May we all together be submerged in the depth of thy doctrine and gain wisdom as deep as the ocean. I take refuge in Sangha. May we all together become units in true accord, in your life of harmony, in a spirit of universal brotherhood, freed from the bondage of selfishness. Even through ages of myriads of kalpas, hard is it to hear such an excellent, profound, and wonderful doctrine. Now we are able to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Once again, good morning. Welcome to this morning's service. It is the month of August, and already we have experienced so many things since the beginning of this shelter in place, the beginning of this pandemic. And we hear reports that it is once again beginning to surge in places that had thought that the virus was under control, the spread of the virus was under control, but are now realizing that the effort to suppress that transmission was not successful. That perhaps we began to reopen our communities too soon, and now we are beginning to see the results of those steps. It's understandable how we would like to not be under these circumstances, that we would very much like to be able to do the things that we have been doing all along, the kinds of things that seem so matter of fact, greeting friends, going to the store, not having to worry about causing the illnesses in others. Here at the temple, we've tried to take the best steps possible. We follow the orders both from Santa Clara County as well as from the state. There was a time when we were considering the possibility of having people coming into the Hondo on an appointment basis. This was during our Obon at home, but that had to be canceled because, again, of the protocols that were the newly announced protocols when no one could meet indoors. And so we continue to change and adapt and to try and comply with when we are able to gather together again. It's something that we can look forward to, and we don't know when that may happen. It may be, hopefully in the fall, but more likely next year when we'll have a reliable, effective vaccine that will help to prevent the transmission of this disease. As this pandemic was beginning to take hold in our communities and the orders to shelter in place in March was issued, it was kind of like, this is not going to be too bad. We'll be able to do this. It's kind of like being on vacation, sort of, working from home as much as possible. And here at the Bitswing, there's not a whole lot that we can do from home. What we do at the Bitswing is conduct services. We conduct gatherings of people, and all of that became inadvisable to do. That if we were to gather together, ignoring the orders that were issued, we would be responsible. Now, thinking about it, we would have been responsible for the transmission of that disease. So it seemed like, it kind of like a sort of vacation. I know many of you have been working from home during this time and making the tremendous adjustment to finding your balance, being productive, meeting the demands of your job. And many of you may be now under the threat of losing financial support, losing the assistance that Congress is now debating again, and with no end in sight. People who are unable to perhaps meet their housing requirements. When a moratorium had been put in place for evictions, that too is coming to an end. There is a tremendous amount of difficulties experienced because of this pandemic, and an inability to do the things that we should try to do to help each other in our communities. At the Bitsing, we were passing out sandwiches, a small thing, helping Loaves and Fishes, a nonprofit organization here in San Jose, to make peanut butter sandwiches and bag lunches and help Loaves and Fishes distribute this. We're not directly involved with the Second Harvest distribution that occurs here every other Thursday at the Bitsing, but it was closed for a while because of the concerns of how to safely provide that support. But we were able to help with that in a small measure, providing space for UIKI to once again distribute that. And this time outside, in front of the annex building, and coordinating with Second Harvest, which has begun or had started to provide the meals already packed, or the groceries already packed, so that people here would not have to sort and distribute the food from Second Harvest. So Second Harvest changed their way of handling this support, setting up in large warehouses the packing of these materials and then distributing to the distribution sites like here at the Bitsing, where we serve about 100, 150 people. UIKI provides that service for people in our community. We hope that if you are experiencing these kinds of uncertainty, that we'll contact places like UIKI, or certainly here at the Bitsing, and let us know if there is something we might be able to do. And I would encourage everyone who can to let people know, let your legislators know if you are experiencing these difficulties. We can only hope to hold them accountable, especially in these times where so much of our individual capacity to meet these demands are fairly limited, but that if we as a community, as a nation, can draw together to recognize the needs of the members of our society, regardless of where they come from, or who they are, or what their background may have been, that we can recognize that there is a need that we can help to provide for. It's important for us to come together in these times of great need, and to recognize that that's what we need to address first, before anything else. That's what we need to help to provide the support that we can as a group of people, as a community, as a nation. When this pandemic began, I had no idea of what the economic impact would be. Everybody kind of had the idea that we'll shut down for a little while, and then we would be up and running again. Well, I would say many people did, not everybody. There were those who were wise enough to recognize that this would not be an easy thing, that unless we all participated and did our part, there would be many, many weeks, if not months, in which we would have to make these adjustments to our lives. They have real consequences. Not only are we burdened with the economic difficulties, but with the deaths that have occurred. More than 150,000 people have died here in the United States. And of these 150 people, each individual represents not just one person, the death of one person, but the people that that person has been in contact with during that illness and eventual death, the family members and friends, the medical staff, the mortuaries that provide the services that care for the remains of these individuals. There are so many involved with the death of this one person. And we grieve with the families who have lost friends and family to this disease. And we should all the more apply our energy and resources and our wits to address what needs to be done, to look out and care for the needs of our community, the people who surround us. And it might be a small thing. Somebody stopped by here about a week ago, one of our members. I won't mention names, but she stopped by and said, I have some food I'd like to drop off at the temple. So if you could distribute this. And we had really no way of distributing that. But she said, oh, okay, I'll take it to someone that I know who could probably use that. And I think that's what we need to do. Certainly an organization that is important, and there are organizations like Second Harvest, Food Bank, UICAI, different organizations within our community that are, and Loaves and Fishes that are organized and able to do these kinds of things. But as individuals too, we can go to our neighbors and find out how they're doing. Just a phone call sometimes may be enough to keep in touch, to let them know that they are thought about. As we conduct these services over the internet, we are constantly mindful, reminded of not everybody has internet access or has the capability of joining in these services on a weekly basis, that there are unfamiliar. There are people who are unfamiliar with these technologies, and so we're trying to address those needs. I think we will be under these circumstances for a very long time. When we began this shelter in place, I didn't realize, well, I thought too, that this will be okay. It'll be over in a few weeks. We'll follow the recommendations. But as we continued under these protocols, it became more difficult for me to adjust to these new circumstances. I began to realize that there are things that I need to do that I can't do, and how am I going to address that? How am I going to be able to provide what we have provided in the past? What adjustments are we going to make? And then as these adjustments were being made, I was uncertain about what to do or how to do these. I certainly relied on people who had those skills and abilities, but to convey what the needs are, what we needed to fulfill. And as we made adjustments to even services, how do we, or what do we do when somebody passes away? What do we do when we have scheduled already funeral services that would require large gatherings of people? How do we address the memorial services that were already scheduled and would need to be held at some point? And it was difficult to find that footing, to be able to feel that what I was doing actually had was able to make some contribution. It took a while. I think I've regained my footing, maybe to the annoyance of others now. So I'm demanding again things that I think should be done. But it has taken a while, whether it was illness or whatever the circumstance or the causes, was very unsettling, difficult to take on again the responsibilities of this position. And I say this only to share with you what I've been experiencing, and that maybe some of you have also experienced the same thing. The uncertainty, the unsettledness. In Buddhism, we are reminded that the difficulties that we experience is a result of how we see the world, that we see the world through our own preferences, our likes and dislikes. We want something to go the way we want it to go. And things don't go according to what we want, and then we get frustrated or angry or unsettled. And knowing that, understanding that, and having done this for a very long time, it's quite another thing to actually apply it, to think through and to realize that how we see the world does affect our well-being. And it may be difficult to work through that. Sometimes it can be overwhelming, difficult to get out of bed or difficult to sleep, difficult to have conversations without being angry or upset. And we sometimes don't recognize in ourselves these emotions, these thoughts. But in Jodo Shinshu, we understand that regardless of where we are assured of the eventual resolution of difficulties, that Amida Buddha affirms us as we are, of the eventual resolution of difficulties. Knowing that allows us, or helps us to look at ourselves. It doesn't mean that I say, Namanda, Namanda all the time in gratitude and appreciation, although I am reminded of how limited my abilities and skills are, that those limitations are sometimes not recognized. And when I begin to see these limitations, I can become disappointed in myself. But we can understand that these limitations are really a part of who we are. That from the beginning, the vow of Amida Buddha, the work of Shakyamuni Buddha, was to address these limitations that we have as human beings. And we are all the more grateful for what we have received through the Buddha Dharma. I hope all of you are well, and that if you are having difficulties or adjusting or difficulty with the circumstances, that there are others who are also experiencing these things. That you can reach out, talk about what you're experiencing, share with others. One of the most important things in Jodo Shinshu is to hear, to listen. Sometimes we talk over each other before we even know what the question is. We think we understand before the statement is completed. But to be able to listen, to hear fully, is something that is truly important. And that perhaps we can lend an ear to someone who is experiencing difficulties, just that, can be make a tremendous difference in someone's life. We will continue to be in this shelter in place, probably for a long time, longer than I think any of us had expected in the beginning. But now we're in the midst of this. We're starting to make adjustments, starting to do the kinds of things that are important to us as human beings. Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu, is about becoming truly human, of recognizing and appreciating the humanity that we share, and expressing kindness and compassion to those around us and to ourselves. The Nembutsu, Namo Amida Butsu, is Kansha no Nembutsu in Jodo Shinshu. It is a Nembutsu of gratitude, recognizing all of the circumstances that make our lives possible, that carry us through our everyday challenges and experiences, to share that compassionate heart with others. We are indeed truly grateful. We hope again that everyone is safe, doing well, thriving under these circumstances as best as possible. And we look forward to a day when we can once again gather together in this Hondo, being able to come together as a Sangha. Thank you very much for your participation in this morning's service. A couple of announcements. This coming Wednesday at 4:15, the Bitsuing will participate in a Bells for Peace. And our website, our YouTube channel will broadcast this. And the Bells for Peace is a event that the Sister Cities International initiated on this 75th anniversary of the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The Sister Cities thought that it would be good to remind everyone of the 75 years of peace that has occurred between Japan and the United States, and that we would ring these bells throughout the sister cities at the time of the detonation of the bomb above Hiroshima and of Nagasaki on Saturday at 7:02 p.m. The Wednesday Hiroshima bombing Bells for Peace will be broadcast over the internet through our regular YouTube channel. It will be an opportunity for us to participate, acknowledging this important event in our human history. And what's really nice is that Mikami Sensei's family in Shimane will join us in this via Zoom. So it will be truly an international event that we will be able to present on that day. Not quite sure yet what the program will be, but Raul Morales will join us on that day. It's not a gathering in front of the Hondo. We cannot do that, but it will be presented over our YouTube channel. Again, this coming Wednesday, 4:15. And we'll start it a little early so that people can join that program. Please continue to join us for the Sunday services. We hope that you'll find these services important in your lives, and we will continue to do the best that we can. Again, thank you very much for joining us as we close Will you please join in Gassho and Nenbutsu? Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Thank you very much, everybody.